The rain on the slick city streets wasn't the coldest thing that night. For Chloe Sterling, 8 months pregnant and deeply in love. The chill came from the sight of her husband's brand-new Audi R8 parked outside a restaurant she couldn't afford. It came from the silhouette of a woman in the passenger seat, her head thrown back in laughter. A laugh Chloe heard again hours later over the phone as her husband lied about being in a late-night meeting. That was the moment her water broke. Alone, abandoned, and in agony, her world didn't just crack, it shattered. This is the story of that shattering and the incredible, unexpected stranger who helped pick up the pieces. Chloe Anderson Sterling believed in the life she had built. It was a life painted in the hues of success, a penthouse apartment overlooking the city, and the steady, reassuring presence of her husband, Liam Sterling. Liam was a force of nature, a real estate developer, whose ambition was as towering as the skyscrapers he helped erect. He was charming, driven, and to Chloe, he was the entire world. She had met him when she was a promising young architect, and he a junior developer with dreams that glittered in his eyes. She'd fallen for the dreams as much as the man. For 5 years, their life was a whirlwind of social events, gallery openings, and quiet, stolen moments that felt more real than any of it. When Chloe became pregnant, they decided she would step back from her demanding career at the prestigious firm Sasaki Associates to focus on their growing family. It was a joint decision, a sacrifice she was happy to make. She'd poured all her creative energy into designing their nursery, a serene space of soft greys, warm oak, and a hand-painted mural of a gentle forest scene. This room was her heart, a tangible representation of the love she was ready to pour into their child. But over the past few months, a subtle chill had crept into their gilded cage. Liam was working later, his nights consumed by investor dinners and site emergencies. When he came home, he smelled of expensive cologne she didn't recognize, and a faint cloying perfume that clung to his suits. He'd become attached to his phone, angling it away from her, his fingers flying across the screen in hushed conversations. "It's just this new high-rise project, sweetheart," he'd say, kissing her forehead. "The financing is a nightmare. You know how demanding Viktor Popov is." Chloe knew Viktor Popov, the Russian oligarch, investing in Liam's latest luxury condominium project, the Apex. The man was notoriously difficult. She wanted to believe Liam to brush off the gnawing anxiety in her gut as pregnancy hormones. But the signs were becoming too obvious to ignore. There was the new Patek Philippe watch on his wrist, a model she knew cost more than a down payment on a house. "A gift from a grateful client," he'd explained breezily. Then there was the car. For weeks, Liam had been complaining about his Mercedes being unreliable. Then one evening he pulled up in a sleek obsidian Audi R8. It was a predator of a car, low-slung and aggressive. "An advance on the Apex deal," he'd announced, his grin wide. "What do you think?" Chloe had feigned excitement, but her heart sank. They were supposed to be saving, putting everything extra aside for the baby. This felt reckless, selfish. It felt like his life was accelerating while hers had slowed to a gentle, waiting pace. The evening it all broke began like any other Tuesday. Liam had called to cancel their dinner plans. "Popov is flying in unexpectedly. I have to be at Perse to smooth things over. Don't wait up, my love." Disappointment washed over Chloe, but she forced a cheerful tone. "Okay, darling. Be safe, I love you." "Love you too," he'd said, his voice distant already somewhere else. Hours later, restless and craving a specific brand of artisanal gelato she'd seen downtown, Chloe decided to take a cab. It was a foolish indulgence, but she felt a desperate need to escape the silent, cavernous apartment. As the cab navigated the rain-slicked streets of downtown, a familiar shape caught her eye. Parked in a valet-only spot in front of Cipriani, not per se, was Liam's Audi R8. Her breath hitched. The cab driver slowed for traffic, and she had a perfect heart-stopping view through the restaurant's floor-to-ceiling windows. There was Liam. He was not with the portly, balding Viktor Popov. He was leaning across a small, intimate table, his hand covering that of a stunning woman with raven black hair and a crimson dress. The woman laughed a sparkling, carefree sound that Chloe could almost hear through the thick glass. As she watched, Liam leaned in and kissed her a lingering, possessive kiss that was achingly familiar. The world tilted on its axis. The gelato was forgotten. "Take me home," she whispered to the driver, her voice a fragile thread. Back in the apartment, the nursery felt like a mockery. The gentle forest mural seemed to warp the trees, twisting into menacing shapes. She sat in the rocking chair, her hands wrapped protectively around her swollen belly, and waited. Each tick of the grandfather clock in the hall was a hammer blow against her heart. He finally came home just after midnight, the scent of rain, that foreign perfume, and expensive wine clinging to him. Long night. He sighed, loosening his tie. "Popov is a shark." Chloe's voice was dangerously quiet. "How was Cipriani?" Liam froze. For a split second, a flicker of pure panic crossed his face before the mask of nonchalance snapped back into place. "What are you talking about? I was at Per Se." "Don't lie to me, Liam," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "I saw you. I saw the car. I saw her." The gaslighting was immediate and vicious. "Chloe, you're not making any sense. You're emotional. You're pregnant. You must have been mistaken." "Who is she?" Chloe pressed, standing up, the movement causing a sharp twinge in her lower back. "She's nobody," he snapped, his voice rising. "She's a client relations manager for one of the suppliers. I was just grabbing a quick drink with her team after the real meeting. You're blowing this completely out of proportion. You kissed her, Liam." The words hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. His face hardened. "You know what? I don't have the energy for this. I'm going to sleep in the guest room. We can talk in the morning when you're less hysterical." He turned his back on her and walked away, leaving her alone with the rubble of their life. As he closed the guest room door, a wave of intense, searing pain shot through her abdomen. She gasped, clutching her belly. It couldn't be. It was too soon. But then she felt a warm gush of fluid down her legs, and a primal fear, colder and sharper than any heartbreak, seized her. Her water had broken. Panic, cold and absolute, washed over Chloe. The pain was a tightening fist in her lower back, radiating around her abdomen in a relentless, cresting wave. This wasn't the gentle preparatory, Braxton Hicks contractions the doctor had described. This was real. This was happening. Her first instinct was Liam. Despite the raw wound of his betrayal, he was still her husband, the father of this child. He had to know. He had to be here. Stumbling out of the nursery, she leaned against the cool wall of the hallway, breathing through the agony. She banged on the guest room door. "Liam! Liam! Something's wrong!" There was a muffled groan from within. "Chloe, for God's sake, go to sleep." "No, Liam, you don't understand," she cried, her voice cracking. "My water broke. The baby is coming." The door flew open. Liam stood there, his hair disheveled, his eyes bleary and filled with annoyance that slowly morphed into alarm as he took in her state, her pale, sweat-sheened face, her hand clutching the doorframe for support, the dark patch spreading on her pajamas. "Are you serious?" he asked, the question laced with an incredulous, almost accusatory tone, as if this was a dramatic ploy for attention. "Yes, I'm serious. We have to go to the hospital, Now. Another contraction seized her, and she doubled over with a pained cry. Liam sprang into a strange, frantic parody of action. He ran back into the room, grabbing his pants and shirt. He was fumbling with his phone, his thumbs swiping uselessly at the screen. Okay, I'll call a car, an Uber. Your car, Liam? Chloe gasped, trying to straighten up. The Audi is in the garage. It will be faster. No, not my car, he said quickly, too quickly. It's blocked in. A neighbor parked terribly. An Uber is better, more reliable. The lie was so blatant, so transparent, it was like a slap in the face. His precious new car, the symbol of his secret life, was not to be sullied by the messy reality of childbirth. As he was frantically tapping at his phone, it began to ring. The screen lit up with a name, Isabel. Their eyes met. Chloe saw a flash of pure terror in his before he reflexively answered, turning away from her as if to shield the conversation. Hello, he said, his voice a forced, casual baritone. No, now's not a good time. I'm in the middle of something. Chloe could hear the faint tinkling sound of the woman's voice on the other end, but one sound carried clearly across the space between them, that same sparkling laugh she had seen through the restaurant window, the sound of her husband's betrayal. It was the cruelest echo, a confirmation that even in this moment of crisis, she was not his priority. He was still entangled with her. I have to go. Liam hissed into the phone and hung up. He wouldn't meet Chloe's gaze. The Uber is 10 minutes away. 10 minutes? Chloe's voice rose with disbelief and pain. Liam, the contractions are coming every 5 minutes. We don't have 10 minutes. It's the best I can do. He shot back, his guilt twisting into defensive anger. Just grab your hospital bag. It's packed, right? Chloe nodded numbly, the fight draining out of her. The betrayal was a poison seeping into her veins, making her feel weak and utterly alone. She shuffled to their bedroom, the polished hardwood floors cold beneath her bare feet. The hospital bag, packed with tiny onesies, and her own soft pajamas, for weeks, sat waiting by the door. A symbol of her hopeful, meticulous planning. For a moment she was supposed to share with a loving, supportive partner. She grabbed the bag, another contraction hitting her so hard, her vision blurred. She cried out, sinking to her knees. Liam rushed in, finally looking truly scared. Okay, I'm here. Let's go downstairs. We'll wait in the lobby. He helped her up, his touch, feeling alien and unwelcome. They rode the private elevator down in suffocating silence, the only sound Chloe's ragged breaths and the quiet hum of the machinery. Each floor they descended felt like a new layer of her old life being stripped away. In the opulent marble lobby, the night doorman, a kind man named George, rushed over with a look of concern. Mrs. Sterling, is everything all right? Should I call for an ambulance? No, George, we're fine, Liam said, waving him off impatiently. We have a car coming. They stood under the awning, the city lights blurred by the persistent drizzle. Chloe leaned against a cold marble pillar, her world shrinking to the rhythm of pain, breath release. Liam paced back and forth, checking his phone every few seconds. Where is this guy? The app says he's 2 minutes away. Chloe looked down at her own phone to check the time, to try and ground herself in anything. The screen was black. In her pained haste, she hadn't realized the battery was dead, another thread connecting her to the world severed. A black sedan pulled up. Not the Uber. A sleek, imposing Bentley Mulsanne, its engine a low, confident purr. The back door opened, and a woman emerged. It was her, Isabel, in her crimson dress now partially hidden by a chic black trench coat. She looked flawless, her makeup perfect, her expression a mixture of impatience and seduction. She walked straight to Liam, ignoring Chloe completely. "You took forever," Isabel said, her voice a low purr. "I thought we were going to my place." She reached up and straightened his collar, her fingers lingering on his neck. Liam looked from Isabel's predatory smile to Chloe's devastated face. He was trapped. "Isabel, not now. This is not what it looks like. Isn't it?" Chloe whispered the words, barely audible, over the roaring in her ears. The pain returned a colossal, overwhelming wave that buckled her knees. She cried out a raw animal sound of distress. Isabel finally seemed to notice her, her eyes scanning Chloe's pregnant form with a look of cold, dismissive appraisal. "Oh," she said, a smirk playing on her lips. "I see. A bit of drama." Liam panicked. "Isabel, just get in my car. Go, I'll call you later." "Your car?" she asked, arching a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. "You mean the one I helped you pick out? The one you're still making payments on?" She turned and gestured to the Audi R8, which had just been brought around by the valet and was idling behind her, Bentley gleaming under the streetlights. The neighbor's car had never been blocking it in. The final lie was laid bare. Liam hadn't wanted to take her to the hospital in his car because he was waiting for his mistress. He was going to leave his wife in labor, waiting for a taxi while he drove off with another woman. The sheer calculated cruelty of it stole Chloe's breath. As Isabel slid gracefully into the passenger seat of the Audi, Liam gave Chloe a desperate, pleading look. "Chloe, I can explain." But there was nothing to explain. With a roar of its engine, the Audi R8 pulled away from the curb, its red taillights disappearing into the rainy night. Liam stood on the sidewalk, caught between two worlds, having chosen the wrong one. And Chloe was left standing alone on the brink of motherhood, completely and utterly abandoned. The Uber, according to Liam's phone, which he was now staring at blankly, had just cancelled the trip. The world dissolved into a kaleidoscope of pain and blurred city lights. The red taillights of the Audi had been swallowed by the night, a final definitive period on the sentence of her marriage. Liam stood frozen on the sidewalk, a statue of indecision and cowardice. He was looking at his phone, muttering about the cancelled ride, about the terrible service, about anything other than the monumental failure of his character that had just played out. Chloe didn't have the energy to scream at him. She didn't have the strength to cry. All of her being was focused on the primal, overwhelming task her body had undertaken. Another contraction stronger than the last ripped through her. Her legs gave way, and she crumpled onto the cold, wet pavement of the porte cochere, the designer hospital bag falling beside her with a soft thud. The doorman. George rushed to her side, his face a mask of alarm. "Mrs. Sterling, I'm calling 911 right now." "No. Ambulance. Too long." Chloe managed to gasp, the words punctuated by ragged breaths. The traffic on the street was a swish of indifferent headlights. No one was stopping. No one saw her. She was invisible in her agony. Liam was finally shaken from his stupor. "Chloe, get up. We can't stay here." He tried to pull her up his hands, clumsy and ineffective. His touch felt like an intrusion, a violation. "Don't touch me." She breathed the words laced with a sudden sharp venom that surprised even herself. It was in that moment of absolute despair, a tableau of human failure under the indifferent city glow, that a car pulled over. It wasn't flashy like the Audi or ostentatious like the Bentley. It was a dark, impossibly sleek sedan, an Aston Martin Rapide, though Chloe was in no state to recognize its make. It was a vehicle of quiet, confident power, and it glided to a stop directly in front of them. The driver's side door opened, and a man emerged. He moved with an unhurried grace, holding a large black umbrella that seemed to command its own circle of calm in the chaotic, rain-swept night. He was tall, dressed in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, his dark hair lightly peppered with silver at the temples. His face was etched with lines of concern, his eyes a startlingly clear blue, immediately assessing the situation with an unnerving intelligence. He took in the seen Chloe on the ground, the panicked husband, the concerned doorman. His gaze lingered on Chloe, and there was no pity in it, only a profound and immediate empathy. "Is she in labor?" he asked, his voice calm and resonant, cutting through Liam's frantic muttering. "Yes, our Uber cancelled and I—" Liam began, but the stranger held up a hand, a simple gesture that silenced him. The man knelt beside Chloe, careful to keep the umbrella over her. He spoke to her directly, his voice gentle but firm. "Ma'am, my name is Nathaniel Hayes. I can get you to the hospital. My car is warm and comfortable. Can you make it to the door?" Chloe looked up at him, her vision swimming. In his eyes, she saw something she hadn't seen in her husband's all night, genuine concern. There was no judgment, no impatience, just a quiet, reassuring strength. She gave a weak, desperate nod. "All right," Nathaniel said, turning to the doorman. "George, is it? Help me get her up gently." He then looked at Liam. "You. Get the bag and open the rear passenger door." The command was issued so naturally that Liam, a man used to giving orders, simply obeyed. He scrambled to his feet, grabbing the hospital bag, as Nathaniel and George carefully helped Chloe stand. The pain was a blinding white light, but she focused on the stranger's calm voice, using it as an anchor in the storm. Nathaniel guided her the few steps to the car, shielding her from the rain. The car door opened to an interior of soft cream-colored leather and the subtle scent of old books and bergamot. It felt like a sanctuary. He helped her settle into the plush seat, making sure she was as comfortable as possible. Liam threw the bag in and started to climb into the front passenger seat. Nathaniel stopped him with a look. "You can ride with me or you can follow in a taxi, but I'm driving. We don't have time to waste." He paused, his blue eyes turning to steel. "And if you get in, you will be quiet and you will not upset her further. Is that understood?" The authority in his voice was absolute. Liam, for the first time that night, looked utterly diminished. He simply nodded and slid into the front seat, looking small and out of place in the opulent car. Nathaniel got into the driver's seat. The engine hummed to life, and the car pulled smoothly into traffic. He turned the heat up and adjusted the vents towards the back. "Which hospital?" he asked, his voice returning to its gentle cadence. "St. Jude's Medical Center," Chloe whispered from the back. Her eyes closed as she breathed through another building contraction. "I know it," he replied. "We'll be there in 15 minutes. He drove with a focused, fluid skill, navigating the busy streets as if they were parting for him. The ride was impossibly smooth, the car's suspension absorbing every bump and pothole. In the back, Chloe felt a strange sense of detachment. The man in the front seat, her husband, was a stranger to her now. And the man behind the wheel, a complete stranger, felt like the only safe person in the world. He didn't try to make small talk. He simply drove occasionally, glancing at her in the rearview mirror, his expression a quiet reassurance. The silence in the car was thick with unspoken words. Liam sat stiffly staring out the window, the city lights reflecting off his pale, guilty face. As they neared the hospital, Nathaniel spoke again, his voice soft. "We're almost there. Just breathe. You're doing wonderfully." His simple words of encouragement were so profoundly kind, so diametrically opposed to the cruelty she had just endured that tears began to stream silently down Chloe's face. They weren't just tears of pain or fear, but of a strange, heartbreaking gratitude for this unexpected act of human decency in the darkest hour of her life. The Aston Martin swept into the emergency entrance of St. Jude's Medical Center, pulling to a stop under the brightly lit canopy. The automatic doors hissed open, spilling a sterile fluorescent light onto the wet pavement. Before the car had even fully stopped, Nathaniel Hayes was out umbrella in hand, opening Chloe's door. Hospital orderlies, alerted by the sight of the high-end car and the obviously distressed pregnant woman, were already rushing out with a wheelchair. "She's in active labor," Nathaniel stated calmly to the lead paramedic. "Contractions are about 3 minutes apart. Her water broke approximately 40 minutes ago." He delivered the information with such precision and authority that the medical staff responded instantly, assuming he was the father. They helped Chloe into the wheelchair, their movements efficient and practiced. Liam, finally jolting into action, scrambled out of the car. "I'm her husband," he announced a little too loudly, as if trying to reclaim a role he had already abdicated. The paramedics barely gave him a glance. As they wheeled Chloe through the doors, she looked back at the stranger who had rescued her. "Thank you," she managed to say, her voice thick with emotion. Nathaniel simply met her gaze and gave a small, reassuring nod. "I'm not going anywhere," he said. "I'll take care of the car and meet you inside." The words hung in the air, a promise of stability in her chaotic world. Inside the emergency room was a blur of activity. Nurses and doctors swarmed around her, asking questions, checking her vitals, and prepping her for the maternity ward. Liam hovered nearby, trying to answer questions about her medical history, fumbling with dates and allergy information that Chloe had to correct through gritted teeth. He was a fumbling, useless appendage to the well-oiled machine of the hospital. They moved her to a private delivery room upstairs. It was a large, surprisingly comfortable room, with soft lighting and advanced medical equipment tucked discreetly behind wooden panels. A kind, middle-aged nurse named Maria introduced herself and began to get Chloe settled. "Your husband can go handle the admissions paperwork at the front desk, sweetie," Maria said with a warm smile. Liam looked relieved to have a task, a way to escape the tense intimacy of the delivery room. "Right. Paperwork. I'll be right back." He hurried out of the room. Chloe was left alone with Nurse Maria and the relentless rhythm of her contractions. Minutes stretched into an eternity. The pain was becoming all-consuming. She closed her eyes, trying to focus on the breathing techniques from her birthing class, but her mind kept replaying the scene on the sidewalk. The laughter, the crimson dress, the disappearing taillights. Just as a fresh wave of despair threatened to overwhelm her, there was a soft knock on the door. It opened, and Nathaniel Hayes stepped inside. He was holding 2 paper cups. "I hope this is okay," he said quietly, his presence immediately calming the frantic energy in the room. "I brought you some ice chips, and I thought your husband might want a coffee." He placed the cup of coffee on a side table. The nurse at the main desk said it might be a while. "The admitting system is down." Nurse Maria looked at him, then back at the empty doorway, where Liam had disappeared. "Well, aren't you a thoughtful one?" she said, her smile genuine. "I just wanted to make sure she was settled in all right." Nathaniel said, his gaze on Chloe. "Is there anything you need?" The simple question, "Is there anything you need?" was so direct and sincere, it almost broke her. Liam had never asked that. He had only created needs: the need for an explanation, the need for an apology, the need for him to simply be the man he promised he would be. "No," Chloe whispered. "Thank you. You've done more than enough." "It's no trouble," he insisted. He seemed about to leave when Liam rushed back in, looking flustered. "The system is down," he announced as if it were breaking news. "They said it could be an hour. They need my ID and insurance card." He saw Nathaniel and his posture stiffened. "What are you still doing here?" "I was just making sure everything was under control." Nathaniel replied, his tone perfectly, even betraying no offense. "Well, it is. I'm here now. You can go," Liam said dismissively, asserting a territorial claim that rang hollow. An awkward silence fell. Nurse Maria, sensing the tension, intervened. "Why don't you both wait outside for a few minutes? Dr. Evans will be in shortly to check on Chloe's progress, and it's best we have some privacy." Liam nodded, looking relieved again to escape. He walked out without a backward glance at Chloe. Nathaniel, however, paused at the door. He turned back to Chloe, his expression serious. "If you need anything at all, you have the nurses send for me. I'll be in the waiting area just down the hall." He wasn't asking for permission. He was stating a fact. He was her guardian at the gate, and he wasn't leaving his post. He left, closing the door softly behind him. Nurse Maria busied herself adjusting Chloe's pillows. "You know," she said conversationally, "I've been a labor and delivery nurse for 25 years. I've seen a lot of fathers in here. Anxious ones, calm ones, clueless ones. But that man out there," she trailed off, shaking her head with a small smile, "that's a good man. You're lucky to have him." The irony was a bitter pill. Chloe didn't have the energy to correct her, to explain that her husband was the flustered, useless one, and the good man was a complete stranger. An hour later, Dr. Evans had come and gone, confirming she was dilating well. Liam had not returned. Nurse Maria popped her head out and came back a minute later, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Your husband is on the phone in the hallway," she reported, her professional tone barely masking her disapproval. "Pacing back and forth, something about a business deal." Of course, even here with his child about to be born, he was consumed by work, or more likely by the mess he'd created with Isabel. Another 30 minutes passed. The pain was intensifying, and Chloe felt a terrifying sense of being adrift. Just then, Nathaniel appeared at the door again, holding Liam's wallet and insurance card. "Excuse me, nurse," he said to Maria. "Mr. Sterling was occupied on a call and asked if I could bring these to admissions for him, since the system is back up. I've already taken care of it." He handed the wallet to Maria. "They just needed to copy the card. Everything is processed." He had done it. He had handled the bureaucracy that her own husband couldn't be bothered with. He had smoothed the way quietly and efficiently, asking for nothing in return. "I'll be outside," he said to Chloe, giving her another one of his small, steadying nods before disappearing. Chloe stared at the closed door, a profound realization dawning on her. Liam's betrayal hadn't just been about infidelity. It was a fundamental absence, an absence of care, of responsibility, of love. And into that void, a stranger had stepped, a man named Nathaniel Hayes, who in the space of a few hours had shown her more genuine kindness and support than her husband had in months. She was still alone in a way, but she was no longer adrift. She had an anchor. The hours that followed were a blur of escalating pain, rhythmic breathing, and the calm, competent presence of Nurse Maria. The world shrank to the four walls of room 502. Dr. Evans came and went her pronouncements on Chloe's progress, the only markers of time. Liam made sporadic appearances each time, looking more agitated and disconnected. He'd pace-check his phone and offer clumsy, useless platitudes like, "You're doing great, babe," before finding another excuse to leave, usually muttering about a critical call. Chloe didn't care. His presence had become an irritant, a reminder of the life that had crumbled just hours before. Her focus was singular, the child she was fighting to bring into the world. Her baby. This was for her, not for him. Finally, after a grueling 10 hours of labor, the moment arrived. The final Herculean effort pushed her past the brink of exhaustion and into a space of pure, primal strength. And then it was over. A lusty, furious cry filled the room. A sound so vibrant and full of life, it washed away everything else. "It's a girl," Dr. Evans announced, her voice filled with warmth. "She's beautiful, Chloe. Absolutely perfect." They laid the tiny, wriggling baby on Chloe's chest. She was a bundle of raw, new life, her face scrunched in indignation, her little hands balled into fists. Chloe looked at her daughter, and a love so fierce and all-encompassing surged through her it left no room for anything else. She wept not from pain or sadness, but from overwhelming, purifying love. It was into this sacred, fragile moment that Liam chose to make his grand re-entrance. He must have been alerted by a nurse, because he burst in his face a mixture of feigned elation and genuine relief that the ordeal was over. "Oh my God," he breathed, rushing to the bedside. "She's here. I'm a dad." He reached out to touch the baby, but Chloe instinctively shifted, pulling her daughter closer. His hand froze mid-air. He looked at Chloe, truly looked at her, and for the first time he seemed to see the unbreachable chasm that had opened between them. "Chloe," he asked, his voice uncertain. "Don't," she said, her own voice low and steady, imbued with a new steely resolve she hadn't possessed before. She was a mother now. She had someone to protect. "Don't pretend this is a happy family moment you get to be a part of." Liam recoiled as if struck. "What are you talking about? I'm here now. Our daughter was just born." "Our daughter was born after you left her mother in labor on a sidewalk to go meet your mistress." Chloe stated each word a carefully placed, devastating blow. "Our daughter was brought to this hospital by a stranger because her own father couldn't be bothered. You weren't here, Liam. Not in any way that mattered." "That's not fair," he protested, his voice rising. "I was dealing with a crisis. My deal with Popov was falling apart. Everything I do for this family." "Stop it," Chloe said, her eyes flashing. "Just stop lying. There are no more lies." "I heard Isabel's laugh on the phone when I called you for help. I saw her get into your car. The car you lied about, the money you lied about. Who were you on the phone with all night, Liam? Her or Popov?" His face went pale. He had no answer. He just stood there, his multi-million-dollar deals and his pathetic excuses shriveling to nothing in the powerful, authentic light of that delivery room. The door opened quietly. Nathaniel Hayes stood there, his expression unreadable. He had clearly heard the raised voices. He held a small, beautifully wrapped gift box in his hands. "I apologize for interrupting," he said, his calm voice, a stark contrast to Liam's panicked energy. "The nurses told me the good news. I just wanted to drop this off, and to see if you and the baby needed anything." Liam whirled on him. Who the hell do you think you are? You need to leave. This is a private family matter. Nathaniel's gaze didn't waver. He looked past Liam directly at Chloe. Is that what you want? He asked her softly. It was a choice. A clear, definitive choice. Stay with the broken past, or acknowledge the steady, respectful presence that had materialized from the storm. No, Chloe said, her voice ringing with clarity. She looked at Liam, her heart no longer breaking but hardening into something strong and resilient. I want you to leave, Liam. What? He sputtered, incredulous. You can't be serious. I'm your husband. I have rights. You abdicated your rights on the sidewalk tonight, she said coldly. Get out. This is ridiculous. Liam's voice escalated into a shout. You're hormonal. You're not thinking straight. I'm not going anywhere. He took a step toward the bed, his face a mask of fury and desperation. Nathaniel moved with a surprising quickness. He didn't touch Liam, but he positioned himself between him and Chloe's bed, a silent, immovable barrier. I believe the lady asked you to leave, Nathaniel said, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous register. The baby has just been born. She needs a calm environment. I suggest you go before I have security escort you out. There was no question that it was a threat, and a credible one. Liam looked from Nathaniel's resolute face to Chloe's implacable one. He was outnumbered, defeated. With a strangled sound of pure frustration, he turned and stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. The room fell silent, the only sound the soft snuffling of the baby in Chloe's arms. The confrontation had left Chloe shaking, but a profound sense of relief washed over her. It was over. The lie was over. Nathaniel remained by the door for a moment, as if to ensure Liam was truly gone. Then he walked over, placing the small gift box on the bedside table. I am truly sorry for your pain, he said, his sincerity absolute. But for what it's worth, congratulations on your beautiful daughter. She's a fighter, just like her mother. He looked at the baby, and for a fleeting moment, an expression of profound, heart-wrenching sadness crossed his face, before being replaced by a gentle smile. It was a glimpse of a hidden sorrow, a hint at the man behind the calm exterior. Do you have a name for her? He asked. Chloe looked down at her daughter, her perfect, tiny miracle. Lily, she said softly. Her name is Lily. Lily. Nathaniel repeated the name, a soft benediction. It's a beautiful name, a symbol of new beginnings. He met Chloe's eyes, and in his, she saw not a savior or a knight in shining armor, but something far more rare, a kindred spirit. The days following Lily's birth were a cocoon of hospital routine and the dizzying, exhausting joy of new motherhood. Liam did not return to the hospital. He sent a barrage of texts alternating between saccharine apologies, furious accusations, and desperate pleas. Chloe read the first few and then blocked his number. Her world had shrunk to the 4-pound, 10-ounce person in her arms, and there was no room in it for his chaos. Nathaniel Hayes, however, was a quiet, steady presence. He didn't visit her room again, respecting her privacy, but he made his support known in subtle ways. A beautiful bouquet of white lilies arrived the next day, with a simple card, wishing you and Lily peace and strength. N.H. He had also, she learned from Nurse Maria, arranged for her to have the best lactation consultant on staff, and had paid for the upgraded private recovery suite, all done anonymously through the hospital's foundation. When she tried to thank him via a message passed through a nurse, the only reply was, "A friend of mine was once in your position. Please just focus on your daughter." When Chloe and Lily were discharged, a car service, discreet and professional, was waiting for them. Not a flashy Aston Martin, but a safe, comfortable SUV with a professionally installed infant car seat. The driver had an envelope for her. Inside was a key and an address to a fully furnished two-bedroom apartment in a secure, family-friendly building with a note. "A safe place for you and Lily to land. 3 months' rent is taken care of. Think of it as a gift from one parent to another." Chloe was overwhelmed by the magnitude of his generosity, but she was also a proud, capable woman. She couldn't accept charity. Yet as she stood in her empty penthouse, the nursery now a painful reminder of a shattered dream, she knew she couldn't stay. She and Lily needed a fresh start, a fortress away from Liam. She accepted the apartment as a temporary loan, a sanctuary she would repay as soon as she was on her feet. Her first call was to a divorce lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Jessica Finch. "He'll fight you," Jessica warned during their first meeting, Lily asleep in her carrier at Chloe's feet. "Men like Liam Sterling with big egos and bigger assets, they don't go down easy. He'll try to paint you as an unstable, vindictive woman and go for custody." The thought sent a spear of ice through Chloe's heart. "He can't. After what he did, he'll twist it," Jessica said grimly. "He'll say he was managing a business crisis to provide for you, and that you, in a fit of hormonal rage, locked him out of his child's life. We need leverage, something concrete." A week later, as Chloe was wrestling with legal paperwork and sleep deprivation, she received a call from an unknown number. "Ms. Sterling, my name is Robert Davies. I'm a private investigator. I work for Mr. Nathaniel Hayes." His voice was gravelly and professional. "Mr. Hayes was concerned that your husband might prove difficult. He asked me to perform a preliminary background analysis on Liam Sterling's financial dealings. I've found some significant irregularities. I think you and your lawyer should see what I have." They met the next day in Jessica Finch's conference room. Mr. Davies, a portly man in a rumpled suit, laid out a file thick with documents. What he revealed was staggering. Liam's real estate empire, which he had always portrayed as a monument to his business acumen, was a house of cards. "Your husband's apex project is leveraged to the hilt," Davies explained, pointing to a flowchart of loans and shell corporations. He secured funding from Viktor Popov based on grossly inflated asset valuations and falsified pre-sale agreements. In short, it's bank fraud. He's been using funds from new investors to pay off old debts in a classic Ponzi scheme structure. The whole thing is on the verge of collapse. The new watch, the Audi R8. The lavish gifts for Isabel. It was all paid for with borrowed money under fraudulent pretenses. He wasn't just an adulterer. He was a criminal. Furthermore, Davies continued, he has a gambling problem. Significant online debts to offshore bookmakers. He's been siphoning money from his company's operating accounts to cover his losses. Jessica Finch's eyes lit up with a predatory gleam. This wasn't just leverage. It was a nuke. Armed with Davies's meticulously documented evidence, she filed for divorce along with an emergency motion for sole custody and a freeze on all marital assets. When Liam was served with the papers, the facade shattered completely. His response was a panicked, rambling voicemail to Chloe begging her to stop telling her she was destroying him, that she didn't understand the pressure he was under. There was no apology, only self-pity. The news of the impending financial collapse spread like wildfire through the city's elite circles. Viktor Popov, upon learning of the fraud, pulled his funding and brought in his own notoriously ruthless legal team from London. The banks called in their loans. The sterling empire didn't just fall, it imploded. And Isabelle Dubois, one of Davies's final reports, was a photograph of her at the airport, checking in for a one-way flight to Dubai. She was with a new man, an aging oil sheikh. Her loyalty, it turned out, was only to the highest bidder. When the money vanished, so did she. Liam was left with nothing. He was facing multiple lawsuits, a federal investigation, and complete social and financial ruin. In the midst of this chaos, Chloe received one more communication from Nathaniel. It was a simple email. Chloe, I hope this information, while painful, will help ensure a secure future for you and Lily. My attorneys have advised me that with Mr. Sterling's assets frozen, and his character now a matter of public record, your divorce and custody proceedings should be swift. He is no longer a threat to you. I have to travel abroad for some time for my foundation's work. The apartment is yours for as long as you need it. Please do not consider it a debt. Consider it an investment in Lily's future. Be well. Nathaniel. Chloe sat in the quiet of her new living room, Lily sleeping peacefully on her chest. The city lights twinkled outside, no longer a symbol of a gilded cage, but a vista of possibilities. Nathaniel Hayes had done more than rescue her from a medical emergency. He had given her the tools to reclaim her life. He had uncovered the truth, neutralized the threat, and then, without asking for a single thing in return, he had simply disappeared, leaving her with the one thing she needed most, a chance to build a new world for herself and her daughter on her own terms. A year and a half passed. The seasons turned, and with them the pages of Chloe's life. The divorce was finalized with brutal efficiency. Faced with irrefutable evidence of fraud and the prospect of a lengthy prison sentence, Liam had ceded everything full custody of Lily, his claims to any marital assets, which were now worthless anyway, and he signed a permanent restraining order. The last Chloe heard, he had accepted a plea bargain and was serving a 3-year sentence in a low-security federal prison. He was a ghost from a past life, a cautionary tale she would one day have to explain to her daughter. Chloe didn't look back. She poured her energy forward. After the first 3 months, she insisted on paying rent for the apartment, arranging a payment plan with the building management, who informed her that Mr. Hayes had anticipated this and had left instructions for them to accept it. It was a matter of pride and principle for her. This life was hers to build. She went back to what she loved. She started her own boutique architecture and design firm, Anderson Design Studio. She worked from a small office she set up in the 2nd bedroom, often late into the night after putting Lily to bed. Her first clients were small, a kitchen remodel, a brownstone renovation. But her talent was undeniable. Her work was clean, warm, and human-centered. She developed a reputation for creating spaces that felt like home. Within a year, she was featured in Architectural Digest for her innovative work on a sustainable community center, and her small firm had a waiting list. Lily was her son. She was a bright, curious toddler with Chloe's determined chin and a laugh that could fill any room with light. They spent their weekends in the park, at the museum, or simply building block towers on the living room floor. Chloe had created a life for them that was smaller than her old one, but infinitely richer and more authentic. It was a life built not on a sterling empire, but on a solid foundation of her own making. She had not heard from Nathaniel Hayes since his last email. She often thought of him, the quiet, kind man who had been a port in the most violent storm of her life. She wondered about the fleeting sadness she had seen in his eyes in the hospital room. She hoped he was well wherever in the world his work had taken him. One crisp autumn afternoon, Chloe was at the playground pushing a giggling Lily on the swings. She felt a presence beside her and turned. It was him. Nathaniel Hayes looked much the same, perhaps a few more silver strands at his temples, his face weathered by travel. He was dressed down in a simple cashmere sweater and jeans, but he still carried that same aura of quiet command. "Hello, Chloe," he said, his voice as calm and resonant as she remembered. Chloe's heart did a strange little flip. "Nathaniel, what a surprise. I didn't know you were back." "I returned last week," he said, his gaze drifting to Lily, who was now demanding to be pushed higher, mommy higher. A soft, genuine smile touched his lips. "She's grown so much. She's beautiful. She's my whole world," Chloe said, her voice filled with a quiet pride. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching Lily soar back and forth. "I wanted to apologize," Nathaniel said, finally turning to face her, "for the way my investigators' work came to light. It was clinical and perhaps brutal. I hope it didn't cause you more pain." Chloe shook her head. "It was the truth. It was the key that unlocked my cage. I can never thank you enough for what you did, Nathaniel. You gave me back my life. You gave Lily a chance at a peaceful one. I didn't give you anything you didn't already have inside you." He countered gently. "Strength, resilience. I just cleared some of the debris from your path." He paused, a shadow passing over his features. "The night we met, it reminded me of a time in my own life. My wife Sarah, she went into labor prematurely. We lost our son. He was born too soon. He lived for only a few hours." The confession hung in the air, heavy and heartbreaking. Suddenly his actions made perfect, painful sense. The sadness in his eyes in the hospital, his quiet efficiency, his profound empathy. He wasn't just helping a stranger. He was honoring a memory. He was being the person he wished had been there for him. "Nathaniel, I'm so sorry," Chloe whispered, her heart aching for him. "It was a long time ago," he said, though the pain was still visible. "Seeing you that night, seeing your strength, and then meeting Lily. It felt like a small bit of light pushing back against an old darkness. I've spent years building my foundation, helping children all over the world, perhaps as a way to bargain with the past. But seeing you and Lily thrive right here, it's a different kind of hope." Lily had tired of the swing and was now toddling towards them, her arms outstretched. "Up, Mommy!" Chloe scooped her into her arms. Lily looked at Nathaniel with the unabashed curiosity of a toddler. "Who you?" she demanded. Nathaniel knelt down to her level, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "My name is Nathaniel," he said gently. "It's very nice to finally meet you, Lily." He wasn't a billionaire rescuer or a mysterious benefactor anymore. He was just a man, one who had known profound loss and had chosen to answer it with profound kindness. And Chloe was no longer a victim or a scorned wife. She was a creator, a survivor, a mother. "We were just about to get hot chocolate," Chloe said, her voice finding a new, easy rhythm. "There's a great place on the corner. Would you like to join us?" It wasn't a grand, romantic gesture. It was something quieter, simpler, and far more real. An invitation, a new beginning built not on the rubble of the past, but on a shared understanding of strength, sorrow, and the stubborn, beautiful hope embodied by a little girl named Lily. Nathaniel's smile reached his eyes, chasing away the last of the shadows. "I'd like that very much." And so Chloe's story isn't just about a marriage ending. It's about a woman's life truly beginning. It's a powerful reminder that our lowest moments do not have to define us. Betrayal can forge resilience, and despair can be the very ground from which new hope grows. A stranger's kindness can change the entire trajectory of a life, proving that decency and compassion are the true superpowers in this world. From the wreckage of a lie, Chloe, with her daughter Lily, built a new empire, one of love, integrity, and self-worth, a foundation that no amount of deceit could ever shake. What did you think of Chloe's incredible journey? Have you ever witnessed an act of kindness from a stranger that changed everything? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a like, share it with someone who needs to hear a story of strength, and be sure to subscribe to our channel for more real-life dramas that will inspire and move you. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Thank you for listening.